Hey YouTube, it's Cheese Factory, and this is going to be an archetype discussion video for Yu-Gi-Oh! I was doing my meta talk, but then I didn't for a while, and then because life, but anyway. So then after thinking about it, I realized that the meta changes a lot, and it hasn't really settled down. Well, it kind of has now, but then again, it kind of had a month ago, and a month before that, so I don't know how it's going to go. So I realized that talking about the meta itself wasn't necessarily the most effective. But if I talk about specific archetypes, that would work fine, because the archetypes don't change really, except for most support cards. So really, it's still the same archetype, has the same combos, etc. So I realized that was a pretty effective way to do the same thing. So I'm just going to talk about an archetype every video. Last time I talked about Chaos Dragons. This time I'm going to talk about windups. You guys are going to all hate me for that. Windups, yep. But it's okay. It's actually a really hard deck, and I've had a lot of trouble with it. It's not as easy as everyone thinks. The combos are pretty long, but once you memorize the couple basic ones, it's not so bad. But there's still... Okay, I have TGU and Shark. Can I go into Shockmaster? Can I go into an OTK? Yes. How? TGU, overlay zenmaity, zenmaity for Magician, pop Shark, summon Magician, summon Shark, go 4, go 5, and now I have 7,000, 8,000 attack on the field, and I pop some of your cards. Yeah, so it's not actually that easy to do with windups. It's not as simplistic and obvious as everyone seems to think, and citing as windups can be kind of hard sometimes, because you don't know what to take out, because you want to keep your combos alive, and it's hard. So, that's who I'm going to talk about today. Future topics I have not planned, but thought about that I am going to talk about will be rabbits, mermantians, agents, injectors, and dark worlds. I think that those are the rest of the meta right now. And then I'm also going to talk about Fire Fists and Fire Kings, because they're coming out soon in whatever the next pack is called, and everyone's getting all excited about them on Bill Network. And pretty much the whole deck ideas have been released, and they're ridiculously good, a lot of them, especially Fire Kings. But I don't think either of them will make a splash, because I think Romantians are better than both of them at everything they do, and I think Rabbits are better than both of them because they have macro, and macro shuts down both those decks. So while I do think they're really good, I don't think they're going to make a huge splash, because Romantians and Rabbits are so good. Anyways, so, about windups. So they have a few loops. Their main loops are either Shark Magician into OTK for 9,300 to 9,800, or Shark Magician into turn 1 Shockmaster. That's their two main plays of the deck. And both of them take up all your Magicians and some of your Sharks, and it's like, you go through your deck, but it says, I will kill you this turn. And that's, kind of good. So it's pretty nice. So what are the loops? So the first one is... How do I want to do this? Okay, so I figured out what I'm going to do. I started a duel someone with windups, OTK'd them on turn 2, and now I'm going to show you some loops. So first, this is Magician Shark. This is all you need for the loops. And first we're going to do Shockmaster. No. Yeah, sure. Okay, we'll start with Shockmaster. So what you're going to do is you're going to summon Shark. Or you're going to summon Magician, sorry. Which is the trigger for Shark's effect. So you would reveal Shark and say, I activate Shark. And then you special Shark, which triggers Magician, because you activated the effect of Shark to summon him. Which is an effect, it's not inherent. So you do that to summon a second Magician. And then you would say, I want my Shark to be level 3. Which triggers my second Magician, summon windup-rat. Then with that done, I can overlay Magicians for Papil Imperative. I activate Papil Imperative, moves Rat to attack position, activate the effect of Rat, special summon Magician, overlay Rat and Shark, because remember Shark is level 3, in order to summon Zenmaity. Then I activate Zenmaity, triggering Windup Magician. Zenmaity summoned the magician. The magician that was triggered by Zenmaity summoned the shark. And then I say overlay, overlay for Shockmaster. So if you go first turn, this is almost always what you're going to do. And most of the time, you'll call spells and then set back row to deal with monsters. Or if you have like Starlight Road, you'll call monsters and then just set Starlight to deal with any heavy storm and stuff. So it's a really good opening. It pretty much shuts down every deck in the game if you open Shark Magician and they don't have Max C or something. Because right now I have, not only is this 36, 5900 attack, it's also negating their crap with Shockmaster. And plus next turn I can just say activate Rat, special Rat, or activate Zenmaity to special a Rat, and then overlay for Giga Brilliant and attack per game, which is ridiculous. So I can say special summon Rat. This is assuming that this is the next turn. I can just call traps on Shockmaster, so that they can't negate my crap. Do this. Overlay for Giga Brilliant. Which is great. Yeah, Giga Brilliant, and then I detach and I say, so let's just show you. This is 1800 for Zenmaity, 2100 for Giga Brilliant, 2400 for Papil Paradigm, and then 2600 for Shockmaster is game by 900 over. So turn 1 you're negating all their crap, and then you're OTKing them on turn 2. So opening Shark Magician is ridiculous. Now, this is if you go Shockmaster, but if you go second, and say you don't think they have Trigger Gores, then you can do this. So opening OTK. Summon Magician, activate Shark, special Shark triggering Magician. Remember, it's not inherent to summon Shark, it is a trigger effect. Magician summons a Magician, Shark to 3, second Magician summons a Rat. You overlay for Papil Apparative. You activate the effect of Papil Apparative to move your Rat to attack position, letting you activate the effect of Rat to special summon Wind Up Magician. Then you overlay for Zenmaity, and activate Zenmaity, triggering Magician, in order to summon a Rat, and your last Magician. The Rat is in attack mode because Zenmaity does not specify defense position. Then I can overlay them for either My Stroke or My Stroke, and then Rat gives me Giga Brilliant because he summons Shark back, Shark goes 3, detach. And right now this is 21, 18, 21, 24, which together make 4 plus 1 plus 1 plus 8 equals 14, 2 to 1 equals 7, 7 plus 1.4 equals 8400 damage. But this isn't optimal actually, because I forgot. What you can actually do is, to make it even better, you can use your Magician, rather than to summon an extra Magician, to go for My Stroke or something, you can go for a Shark, and then keep it at 4, and overlay for Abyss Dweller. Not only does it destroy Mermantians, but Abyss Dweller is going to be at 2200 instead of Maestroke's 18, and he buffs Zenmaity up to 2000. So you have 2300 for Zenmaity, 2100 for Giga Brilliant, 2400 for Papil Parative, and 2500 for Dweller, equaling 9300 damage. And this also allows you to go, instead of Giga Brilliant, you can go for Acid Golem. And because Acid Golem is a water type, he will benefit from Dweller, and he'll go up to 35. And doing that, you can effectively get 9800 damage in one turn if you summon him last. And that's enough to OTK over, like, almost over Ryo. And you can do it, like, over any 1800 beaters, all that crap. So those are the two most basic wind-up combos that pretty much everyone, well, a lot of people know, not everyone, or I wouldn't be making this video. And it's really good. It's amazing, because Dweller bumps them all up, and then Dweller negates their opponent's stuff. And you can go Leviathan, which gives you the same attack as if you went for Giga Brilliant, but it gives you one 3k monster instead of a bunch of smaller monsters that add up to the same. Or you can go Acid Golem, which is dangerous but gives you more. So it's a little bit versatile, and it's really, really good. So the wind-up OTKs are obviously amazing. And then the last one, which I will now show, is if you have a level 3 on the field and a magician and 2 sharks in your hand. So this is probably the least efficient wind-up OTK that you can do in card usage because it costs 4 cards and it's not a lot better than the other ones. The reason it's good though is because it is a little bit better and it gives you access to Zenmaity or Adrius in the combo. So what you're going to do is you're going to summon Magician and special summon Shark, triggering Magician. The Magician's going to summon you an extra Magician. Now you're going to say Shark to 5, not 4, to 5. Triggering the second Magician to summon another rabbit. And this whole thing is assuming you already have a rabbit on the field beforehand. And then you can overlay them for Zenmaity, triggering the shark in your hand. And then you can overlay the 2 wind-up magicians for either Maestroke if you're feeling defensive, or Giga Cowboy if you need the extra damage output, because he's effectively a 3000. And then with the 2 level 5 sharks, you can go for Zenmaity. And then you can use Zenmaity to go for wind-up rat, which gets you into Giga Brilliant. So with this one you have, let's see, 2100, 3300, 1800, 2900. So this one does 10,100 damage, and it has a 2-pop for Zenmaity, so it can get rid of back row or face down monsters and stuff like that. Or you can go Adrius if they have like a can't be destroyed by battle monster. So this is much more versatile than any of the other OTKs, but it costs 4 cards to do instead of 2. And it goes through more of your sharks and all that kind of stuff. So it's much more taxing on your resources, but it's really good. So if you happen to be able to do it, it's amazing. Oh, and I'll put all these combos in the description if I can, because I know these are kind of complicated. So, yeah, these are the basic wind-up combos. And the other one I'm going to show you is Tour Guide plus Shark into Shockmaster or almost OTK. Okay, so this is Tour Guide plus Shark. So this is either Shockmaster or almost OTK. You can go Tour Guide or Night of Silence, Assailant, however you pronounce it. Overlay for Zenmaity. Then you're going to activate Zenmaity in order to special summon Magician. And now that Magician has been summoned, you can activate the effect of Wind Up Shark, which triggers Magician. So now you have 2 choices. You can either use Magician to go into another Magician, and then go straight for Shockmaster, just with these 3 level 4s that you have right now. Or you can bump Shark to 5, trigger the second Magician, summon another Shark, bump it to level 5, and then you can say overlay for Zenmaity, say, and overlay for Giga Cowboy, which gives you 3,000, 1,500, 2,600. It's not quite an OTK, it's only 7,100 damage, but it's off of Tour Guide instead of Magician to start with. And then the other thing you can do with this is, rather than doing this, you want Tour Guide for Magician, or Shark, or Magician. So say you're right here, you can obviously go Shockmaster, or you can use Shark at 3 to summon the second Magician. Or you can trigger Shark to 3 right now in order to summon a rat. And then you can do your Papil play. So you can use the rat to summon the Magician, and then overlay for any level 3. So say Leviathan. This is a much different play because it doesn't actually do as much damage, but it gives you an extra magician on the field, and sometimes that's what you need, is some extra material for if you don't think you can take them this turn, you want something else on the field for later. So this is just something else you can do with it. You can do so much with windups. All their cards combo off each other so well, it's incredible. So yeah, that's going to be it for the windup combos. And then next we are going to talk about, let's see, I think siding with windups and some rulings, stuff like that. So let's go. Okay, so windup rulings and siding for and against. Siding, I'll start with the rulings, I guess. Shark, Rabbit, and Book of Moon, I think, are the only ones. If you use Rabbit on a windup, then when it returns to the field, it can use its effect again. This includes if you target yourself. And when the monster returns to the field, it does not count as being summoned back on the field. It returns to the field in exactly the same battle position, and it was not summoned this turn, so it can change its battle position as it wants as normal. Then Windup Shark is a trigger effect. It is not an inherent summon, so it does trigger Magician, it does trigger Factory, all that kind of stuff. And Book of Moon, if you set a monster or a Windup monster after it activated its effect via Book of Moon or something like that, it can activate its effect again once it just flips face up. And yeah, I think that's all the Windup rulings that I know of. So let's go into siding for and against. Siding against windups. The huge ones you always want to have. Thunder King Ryo is amazing. He stops Factory, he stops their Exceeds, he stops everything. He's so good. He's amazing. He just annihilates windups totally. And then goes in match or Rivalry of Warlords. Rivalry is better, I think, because it basically shuts down the whole deck. Because it says they can't have any two monsters of the same type, and like every windup is a different type. Whereas Goes in Match states you can't have two monsters of the same attribute, but if you do that, they can still do Rat and Rabbit, which is like an infinite loop, saying you lose an attack every turn. It's like a free Scrap Iron Scarecrow, which, while that's a terrible card, if you can do it for free, it's always good. So Goes in or Rivalry are really, really important. And then Max C, of course, because the windup loop, I think when I calculated it, summons 11 or 12 times in one turn. So you get huge plus, and if you have Tragodia, then you basically kill them that turn. Valor is really good at stopping the loops. It's really good at stopping their tour guides. It's good at stopping, like if they summon Magician, then activate Shark, you can let Shark go, and then Valor the Magician. So they'll have to go for a 4, which will use up their ridiculous combo they would have otherwise had, which is always nice. Although they still get something out of it, which is why most people prefer Max C against windups. Mystical Space Typhoon, windup usually run like 10 to 11 back row, so you really want MSTs, and also you can chain it on the windup factories. Twister or Dust Tornado is another option, because it can be chained onto the factory and negate it, which is nice. So even though a lot of people don't really like Twister, but it's actually pretty good. Tragodia, you shouldn't really be siding necessarily, it's just something that you really want to have against windups. Because if you drop your Max C, that's the card you want to draw into. Because if you don't draw into Tragodia or Gores, they will just OTK you anyway. And if you go into Tragodia, you will have like 16 card hand, like 9,600 attack, and next turn you can just attack with Tragodia and kill them. So that's always nice. And then a couple others that are interesting I think most people don't know about is Deck Lockdown, which is a continuous spell that says neither player can search any cards. They can only add cards from their deck to their hand by drawing, like Thunder King. He also says no monsters can be special summoned from the deck. It's so good. And then after 2 turns it's been on the field, it's destroyed. So it's like 2 turns of windup players can't do anything. That's anything combo-y at all. They can't do tour guides, they can't do magicians. All they can do is like Rat and Shark. It just totally shuts their deck down for 2 turns. And then Chain Disappearance is good because you can do it on their magicians, you can do it on rats. That's just 2 of the 4 wind-up monsters. You can do it on Tour Guide, you can do it on Sangan, you can do it on Night Silent. You can do it on most of their stuff, so it's really, really good. Chain Disappearance is amazing against windups. A lot of people don't cite it anymore, but it's still pretty good. It's not like as great as it once was when Inzectors were prominent and you can pop 3 Dragonfly and stuff like that. But it is still pretty good. You can still do it on Dragonfly. You can still do it on like a Ladybug, or a Hornet, or a Rabbit, or any stuff like that. So it's still okay, it's just not as amazing. And that's really all there is to cite against windups. There's a lot of stuff though. That's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe 7 cards you can cite against them. And obviously you won't be citing all of them. I'm just naming them all because some decks work better with different ones. Like maybe you search and summon from your deck all the time, so you're not going to want to side deck lockdown. Or maybe you always search and don't have room for Thunder King. Or maybe you happen to run a deck that can't run Gozen or Rivalry. Stuff like that. Just a lot of stuff to think about, so that hopefully something in there works for you. And then when you're siding as windups, the cards you really want to side are especially Dimensional Fissure, because it says any monster that would be sent to the grave is banished instead, which means your opponent cannot activate Windup Shark Windup Shark. Too much windup stuff. They can't activate Max C or Effect Veiler, so they can't stop your chains. Snowmanator is another good one, because it totally destroys elemental heroes. But also because it's a level 3 you can use for your Exceeds, and it's still good. It's pop a monster, flip, 1900 defense. A lot of decks won't get over that, they won't see it coming. Especially if you didn't do a dual one. Thunder King is a really good card to side because so many decks in the meta are hurt by Thunder King. Thunder King is one of those that any deck can main, even if it hurts yourself, because it hurts your opponent more. So it's always a good card. And then, of course, hand traps. Effect Veiler and Max C, because they're really good. And if you play a Wind-Up Mirror, you might want them. And if you play against Mermantians, you might want Max C. There are definitely situations you will want them, and you really shouldn't be maining them in wind-ups, because wind-ups are a really, really tight deck. Because they have like 12 cards that combo off, so you have to have a lot of back row and stuff to be able to get into that effectively and reliably. So having room for that kind of stuff is not the easiest. But it still works out, so it is what it is. So really that's all you can, that's stuff that you need to be citing as windups to deal with what they're going to be citing against you. Apart from MST and Dust Tornado, because MST and Dust Tornado can destroy Rivalry and Gozen and deck lockdown, which are all really, really dangerous. And they can just chain to it, so it's really important. So yeah, that's all you can side for and against windups. And the last thing I'm going to be doing is a windup deck profile to show you an idea, like this is what I run, and it follows the pretty basic windup structure. So I'll talk about it then. So here we are. Hey, so this is my wind-up deck that I'm running right now. It's pretty basic. 3 Magician, 3 Rabbit, 3 Rat, 3 Shark, because those are the only wind-ups that are any good, so you run 3 of each, because they're amazing. 2 Tour Guide, 1 Sangan, 1 Night of Silence. I really like this because it gets into Zenmaity really, really easily, and Tempo, which are all really good. And of course Leviair and things like that. So I like having both. A lot of people don't run the Night Silent, they just run the 2 Tour Guides and the Sangan, but I really like it. And then I'm running 2 Thunder Kings, because Thunder King is amazing against everything. And 1 Gores, because you think no Gores because of factories and a lot of back row, but it's actually really, really reliable, because it's basically an extra trap that they won't see coming. Because if they see you set 4 back row, they're not going to think, oh, he has Gores in his hand. They're going to think, wow, he has a lot of back row, that's really annoying. And whenever they get through all that, and then they attack, you just drop Gores, and they think, wow, so he had all that and Gores, that's annoying. So Gores is actually really, really good, because once they get through all your back row, you still have Gores. So he's pretty nice. Triple Factory, some people think that you should only run 2, because once you get through your 12 windups that you will do in like 1 or 2 loops, you don't want it anymore. But it's so good that you want to open with it on turn 1. So you should run 3. Because if you run 3 cards in a deck, that says, either 1, this card is a really good draw late game, or 2, this card is an amazing draw on turn 1. So then 3 MSTs and Heavy Storm, Darkhull, Reborn, and the best card ever out of Avarice. This card is so broken, it's ridiculous. Can give you back all your Magicians, all your Sharks, and your Exceeds, and just OTK again. It's the best card in the deck, because it lets you do everything again, and it's a +1. For the traps, I'm running 2 Deep Prison, 2 Compulse, 2 Bottomless, 2 Solemn Warning, 1 Starlight Road, 1 Solemn Judgment, and 1 Mirror Force. Deep Prison and Compulse, I think, are the best traps in the meta right now, because they get through Stardusts, they get through Zenmaities. Compulse can bounce any Exceed or Synchro. It's situational uses. You can chain it if your opponent activates a Torrential and you don't have any more monsters. Stuff like that. Deep Prison is amazing because you can decide after a monster is summoned if you want to negate. So it's not like Bottomless, where if you draw it after their beat 6 on the field, you're like, well, crap. Like if they have Christia, and then you draw Bottomless, you think, wow, this is late. Whereas if you draw into Deep Prison, you think, great, I can just set this, Deep Prison him, and that's that. Bottomless are because they're also amazing, because they banish, and banishing is always good. Solemn Warning is, of course, good. It can negate stuff like Reborns or whatever, and it can also negate effects. Like if your opponent summons Magician and then activates Shark, you can say, sure, that's fine, and then Solemn Warning the effect of Wind Up Magician, so now they have a useless Shark on the field that you can just kill next turn, and then they're down 2, and you only cost you the 1 Solemn, which is always amazing. Starlight Road, of course, I'm running 11 traps, plus 3 factories, and 3 MSTs. That's a lot of back row that I'm going to have. And also, this is probably the only deck in the game where you want to have something to deal with Darkhull. Because Starlight Road negates Darkhull, and if on turn 1 you have like 5 monsters on the field, you want to be able to negate Darkhull, because it screws you over. Solemn Judgment, for the most often you'll be using this, is to negate Heavy Storm or Darkhull. This is almost always what you're going to be doing with it, because it's amazing. Or if your opponent has like 1 face down, and you don't have an MST, and you have a Judgment, you can just combo off, and then whenever they drop their face down, you Judgment it and OTK. Usually it just acts as a dark bribe where you're going to pay life points instead of letting them draw, which I actually think is better. I'd rather pay 4,000 than let my opponent draw a card. But it is expensive, and therefore it does make sense to draw Dark Bribe, but Solemn Judgment can also be used as an emergency drop stopping, like Christia or a Thunder King or a Gores or something like that you need to stop. And 1 Mirror Force is because it punishes bad players. If you're someone who is going to summon 5 monsters in attack position when he has a face down card, and just say, well, I'm going to attack, and then they Mirror Force, you're punishing someone because they made a mistake, and it's really good at that. So it's a nice card to have one of. I'm not running 2 because I don't think that running a 41 card deck is worth it, and I don't want to take out Knight of Silent. But running 2 is also good. It's also another second turn answer, like Deep Prison, where you can use it after your opponent has summoned their big monster. It's really, really good. I feel like putting to 2 was an interesting decision that opened up a lot of choices and was one of the reasons Inzectors did so well. Because Inzectors are really good against Deep Prison and Mirror Force, and you should usually be siding them out against Inzectors. Anyways, in my side deck, I'm running double Twisters for rivalries and stuff, 1 system down for Geargias, 2 Max Cs for other windups pretty much, 2 Veilers for Inzectors and stuff like that, Electric Virus for rabbits or machines or dragons, anything like that. Cyber Dragon plus Chimera Tech is, of course, for machines, and you can actually also side Cyber Dragon against a ton of other stuff, like to negate Ryos or whatever. It's just a really good card. 3 Dimensional Fissure is, of course, amazing, because it negates Max Cs, it negates Veilers, and it banishes all our stuff. I mean, that's like everything good at once. And then 1 Snowman Eater. I only had room for the 1. I thought about pulling out System Down, but I decided it wasn't worth it. So I'm not sure if this should be a Snowman Eater, because only 1, it's not really something you only want to be siding 1 of, feel like maybe a second Mirror Force would be a better choice, but I'll decide that sometime. So then, moving on to the extra deck, we have one zenmaity, of course, because he's amazing, and he's in all the loops. One zenmains, because it's a safety move, and he's also really good. I mean, everyone should run him. Tempo gets over Acid Golem and stuff like that. Leviathan is really good. Leviair is really good. Acid Golem is an emergency card, but he's still really good. Giga Brilliant, most decks don't run, but again, it's really good. It's amazing. Because it's like Acid Golem. If you have 4 monsters on the field, he's amazing. Papil Operative is amazing, and he's in the loop. Maestro is safety. If you don't necessarily think that he doesn't have anything, if you think, well, maybe he will have a Mirror Force or a Torrential, I should go Maestro. Giga Cowboy is, of course, amazing. He's like a 3k beater, and at the same time, he can also be a burn card. Abyss Dweller bumps up the OTK in more attack, and it negates Romantians and all the Inzectors and whatever, stuff like that. I actually don't know if it negates Inzectors, I'll have to look that up. Shockmaster negates everything, and he's part of one of the loops. Zenmayo is amazing. Adrius is amazing. And Stardust for Starlight. I'm not running Tyrus because I don't think Tyrus is that good. Personally, I mean, he's good, definitely, but Adrius and Zenmayo are both way better. So you should always run those over Adrius and Tyrus in windups, in my opinion. There are decks that should run Tyrus, but for windups, the goal is get rid of his stuff so that I can OTK now, rather than be safe if I don't OTK. So yeah, this has been the windup discussion. If you have any questions or anything, please post them, and I will do my best to look them up. Or, I mean, to respond to them, and look them up if I need to. Yeah. That's it. So this is Cheese Factory. I'm going to be signing out. I think my next deck is going to be Rabbits, but it might be Romantians. I don't know yet. We'll decide, or I'll decide. You guys can also suggest any archetypes you want to be Type C. And that's all. So I will see you guys with the next one.